Hello, I'm Simon, G4TJC for the SOTA Summits team. I'm going to lead you through some very basic use of the Qgis program. Now I will have provided you with a project already set up, and the first thing to do is to open that project. Here's an example. You can see we have a map area, and over here we have the layers panel. We've got a mapping layer active, in this case Google Terrain, but we can turn that one off. We can look at OpenStreetMap, and because this is a French territory, we've got the excellent IGN mapping. As well as the mapping layers, we have some vector layers. So the main one is a set of points showing us our summits for the association. We can turn that on and off too. Let's put the map back on. Starting with the zoom and pan selected, we can use the mouse to zoom in or out. Actually, we can choose from a preset down here, so let's zoom right in 1 to 10,000. And now we can use the left mouse button to drag the map around, and it redraws when we release the mouse button. Now the great power of a GIS program is that it combines the features of mapping with those of a spreadsheet. So if we go up here on the layers panel to our summits layer and right click, come halfway down, you can see open attribute table. So we click on that, and here is what is essentially a spreadsheet relating to our points layer showing the summits. So I've predefined this. This has come from the raw mapping results, but I've added columns for summit spot height, summit name, and any notes that we want to make. At the moment, you can't edit that, so we have to come over here and toggle into editing mode. Let's take each of these summits in turn. So we'll start with the first row, and we select that, and we go up here and we click on the crosshairs. That pans the map to that summit. Let's zoom in a little bit more. There is hidden behind the marker there a spot height. Let's just turn that off. 273. Okay. So we go back to the table and we enter 273. We can also enter the name. No need for a note. Let's go on to the next summit. Select the row, click the crosshairs, and we're panned there directly. Now I can see the name, obviously, but there doesn't appear to be a spot height on this one, so we're going to have to count the contours. The contour interval is 10 meters, so here's the 150, 160, 170, 180, 190. So we'll enter the spot height as 190, but that isn't really a spot height. Sometimes I give us a separate column for contour heights, but in this case let's just make a note that that's a contour height. Now the third and last summit does have a spot height, 284, and the name. Great. Okay, we've got a map elevation and a name for each of our summits, so let's save that. Now you'll notice that the raw analysis has positions that don't quite agree with the map. So I think we should trust the map more than SRTM. So I'm going to move each of these summits. Now if we go back to the main window, we're already in edit mode, so all we've got to do is select the move feature icon. Now we can see this summit FG04 is selected because it's showing yellow. So what we can do is we can click on it, drag it right over that spot height marker, and it's moved. Now it's a little bit dangerous when you are in move feature mode, because if you've panned the map and you're not actually looking at the feature that's selected, and you try to move the feature you're looking at, which is not selected, you are actually going to be moving the feature that's off screen. So every time it's a good idea to save it, and then with a bit of luck you won't do too much damage if you do that by accident. Or you can, to be safe, you can go back into pan mode, so if you then drag around with the mouse you're not actually moving anything. Just beware of that. It's easy to make a mistake. Let's go back to the table and we'll drop back to FG19. Click the crosshair so we zoom over there. You can see that one's not really very well centered either. It's just slightly off. So let's go back to move feature. You don't actually have to click right on it. You can drag it from just off the side, but it gives you a nice little marker to see where the new position is. So we release and it's moved. Let's save it. Let's go to FG18, pan the map. That one's not quite right either, so let's just drag that one out, drop it right on the spot height. There we go. Save the layer, turn off edit mode so we can't do any damage. So already dropped us straight back into zoom and pan mode. So I think we're done now. Having edited the summits layer, you'll want to get the results back to the summits team. The layer is in what's called shapefile format. However, that's a bit of a misnomer because it's not just the single .shp file. Each layer has another 4 files, and you need to get all of those back to us. So you'll probably want to select them and zip them up. I've got 7-zip installed here, but you can use the standard built-in Windows zip program. I won't do that right now because we're going to look at the culls next, so you'll want to gather all of those files and you can put them into a single zip file. Returning to the map, let's start looking at the culls. So I'll switch on the culls layer. Once more we bring up its attribute table. You can see in this case I've got a cull spot height column and a note, but not a name. We don't need to gather the names for the culls. So let's pan to FG18 and zoom in. You can see it's pretty much where you would expect it. Have we got a spot height here? No, we don't have a spot height. Let's go into edit mode and we'll just nudge that right onto the road. Roads usually go through the cull. Rivers don't, of course, so watch out for that. You can have canals going over culls, but obviously not a river. In a case like this where we don't have a spot height, we're going to have to use a contour value. So we can see here the 100-meter contour is just below the cull. So to get a clear prominence, we have to look at the value of the contour above it. So we're always being conservative with prominence values. So let's record this one as 110 meters, but with a note that that's a contour above the coal. So at a push we might call it actually 109 meters, but let's record that coal as being below the 110 meter contour. Going on to the next one. I think we can probably use that 42 meter spot height. Is that referring to there? I think it probably is. So we'll record that one as 42 meters. And the last one, where does that take us? In the middle of nowhere, because that summit was the island high point, and with islands their high point always has its coal at sea level. Now it's not very useful, it doesn't really matter, but it's not very useful having it right out in the middle of the ocean. It doesn't really matter where you put it, but let's put it on the coast. Zoom in. Let's put it right on the beach. Okay, go back to the table and we can record this one as 0 meters because it's for the island high point. Save, come out of edit mode. Now we've got all of our summit data, all of our coal data, so we can go back to the directory, select the 5 files for each of the 2 layers, use your preferred archiving program to make a zip. That's the file to send back to the summits team. We can then translate that into a Google spreadsheet quite easily, and that will become your summits list. I hope that's been a useful introduction to the Qgis program. It's really very powerful, but 99% of the program you don't need to use for these very basic operations, so don't be put off by the apparent complexity. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any queries, look me up on the SOTA website. You probably have my email address anyway, so please get in touch if you need any help. I'm Simon, G4TJC, and thank you very much for watching.